Lesson 18. In this presentation, we'll be covering the Attic declension and the pronoun hutas, haute, tuta. In the Attic dialect, some important second declension nouns and adjectives have different forms due to sound changes and contraction. For example, naas, which you would see in Homer, temple, is going to be neos in Attic dialect. And helios, gracious, friendly, propitious, often of the gods, is going to be helios in Attic. Now, their forms appear highly irregular, and there are several ambiguities. We'll look at the declension of one of these next. So this is naos, ha, temple. These are the forms you might see in non-Attic dialects, and here they're perfectly irregular. We see all of the old familiar faces of these second declension masculine endings. But we're going to change some of the things here. Instead of the alpha in the stem, we're going to get the epsilon. And all of these endings are going to change their vowel, or their vowels, or their diphthongs to omega throughout. So we're going to have omega in every ending here. And some of the usual distinguishing marks of the cases will help us here, but you'll see that there are lots of ambiguities. So for instance, the nominative singular and the accusative plural are the same. We do have a unique form here, neo, the genitive, but this looks nothing like the normal genitive singular. And the dative singular and the nominative plural are the same, actually, neo, with the iota subscript there. And there's ambiguity here too with the accusative singular and the genitive plural. We do have another unique form here in the dative plural, neos, with the iota subscript. So the iota subscripts are, well, I guess you do see them in the nominative plural as well. It's best to refer to a chart like this when you actually see a noun or an adjective of this kind, which we will be seeing in the readings connected to this lesson. Let's turn to a pronoun, an important pronoun, meaning this or these. Hutas, haute, tuta. Hutas, of course, is the nominative masculine singular. Haute is the feminine singular. And tuta, the neuter singular. Pronouns like hutas that indicate which of a set of things one is talking about are sometimes called deictic pronouns. This comes from the Greek verb deiknume, for to point out or show or indicate. So whether we're talking about this one or that one or these ones or those ones, we are indicating which of a set or a group of things we're talking about. In English grammar, we often call these demonstrative pronouns, or just demonstratives. Hutas and its counterpart ekeinas, that, are always found in the predicative position when used as adjectives. For example, hutas hapoietes. This is how you say this poet. Note you do not say ha hutas poietes. Also, in Greek you have the definite article, the ha. So this is literally something like this the poet. But in English we would translate that as this poet. You might say a very similar thing, a slightly different word order, hapoietes ekeinas, that poet. Either of these positions is acceptable for this deictic pronoun. The position that would not be acceptable is, again, in between the definite article and the noun. That would be the attributive position, and it's not where we find these deictic pronouns. This is the full declension of hutas, haute, tuta, and we're going to go through some of the irregularities here. If you'll notice, first of all, we actually have, with two minor exceptions, the exact same endings that we see everywhere else for effectively a 2-1-2 adjective, or the definite article, say. The exceptions are here in the neuter singular, we have tuta, just the omicron instead of the omicron nu, like we usually get in normal second declension neuter nouns. But apart from that, all of these endings are the same. Now let's look at the masculine and let's look at the stem. So if you'll notice, the stem usually consists of this tut, except in the nominative singular. where we get hutas, and the nominative plural, where we get the same stem, this hut. In the feminine, we see taut in most of the forms, except the singular nominative, haute, the nominative plural, hautai, and the genitive plural, which is it's actually going to be the same as the masculine and neuter forms for that. So the blue are the most common forms, most common stem, and the red are the irregularities. And here we have normal tut throughout the declension, except in the nominative plural and accusative plural we have taut, just like we see in the feminine parts. So this is an extremely important pronoun. It can be used on its own to mean this one or that one. It can also mean he or she or it or him or her or they, all kinds of things. So it's important to become familiar and comfortable with the different forms. For the forms, the accidents, the endings, you can take a look at the Attic declension, pages 27 and 34. 34 is the adjective example. And for the forms of hutas, haute, tuta in your grammar, check out page 49. For further reading on deictic pronouns, some examples more on word order, you can check out page 144. Thank you very much.